Standards-based grading in the visual arts. Standards, learning targets, rubrics, and gradebook. This video is created by Joshua Koza, art instructor at Solon High School. So the great thing about an art curriculum is that it's reflective of the unique qualifications and strengths of the instructor. So no two art programs are identical, nor should they be. This presentation will proceed under the assumption, however, that our programs are all built around the framework of the 6 visual art standards established by the National Art Education Association. This brings us to our first important point. We must distinguish between standards and learning targets. Standards are broad areas of understanding, whereas learning targets are specific statements of what we expect our students to demonstrate. For instance, understanding and applying media techniques and processes is a broadly stated standard that for a young learner may be difficult to interpret, especially regarding the expectations of that standard. Now look at the 2 learning targets. Both of these learning targets fall under Standard 1. These are detailed and specific statements of my expectations for my Ceramics 2 students. The learning targets address certain skills or aspects of student work that can identify to a student what will be assessed and on what project. As you can see, the projects that correspond with these learning targets are listed in parentheses. Before we look at a rubric, let's first look at how we will assess these standards and learning targets. My district has agreed upon this Universal Performance Indicator Scale. Every discipline uses this exact scale to assess their standards and targets. Please note that a 4 does not indicate going above and beyond expectations, and that a 0 is only used when no data has been submitted. This is a sample rubric for a portrait photography lesson. As you can see, the performance indicator scale is at the top of the page. Below, each learning target that I assess is listed under the corresponding standard. There are 4 standards and 6 learning targets listed, all of them relating to knowledge, understanding, and process. Behavior and work ethic are not included. If behavior and work ethic are affecting your students' work, it should be evident in the quality of the work, which is already being assessed. Penalizing for behavior and work ethic would effectively be double dipping and would equate to an attempt to coerce students through punitive measures. These learning targets will be assessed multiple times over the course of the term and will be graded holistically, with the emphasis being placed on the most recent assessments. Other targets, such as these, will be assessed only once and are context-specific to this project. In just a moment, we will look at how both of these targets are addressed in Gradebook. Before we take a look at Gradebook, I would like to address 2 questions that could possibly stem from a mention of holistic grading and multiple assessments. What about sketchbooks? Are they considered homework? My answer is no. I assess my students' sketchbooks periodically and treat them as artifacts and evidence of their creative journeys. I am not necessarily looking for quantity, but rather substance. There is a rubric that accompanies the course sketchbook. While they are assessed several times, the most recent assessment replaces the previous one. At the end of the course, the sketchbooks receive one final assessment as a portfolio of work. What about reassessment? Well, obviously it is a little easier and less time-consuming to reassess on a quiz than it is on a painting. However, if you have a number of learning targets that are assessed on every or most projects, then students are given multiple opportunities to demonstrate understanding. Grading these learning targets holistically as portfolios of work provides the teacher the ability to determine whether or not a low score is simply an outlier or a true indication of a lack of understanding. So, will my gradebook be a confusing labyrinth? It does not have to be. Granted, setting this system up will require a little more left-brain thinking than some of us artists are used to, but in the end, it can be an effective tool of communication between educators, students, and their families. Here are a number of suggestions that can help organize your gradebook for standards-based assessment. Group your learning targets by standards. Create new categories based on your standards instead of homework, projects, and quizzes. Set the due date for the end of the term. Gradebook likes to organize everything chronologically, so give everything the same due date. However, it is still important to set deadlines and to effectively manage the pacing of your curriculum. Ensure that you communicate this to parents and to students. Have some form of recognizable categorization system. I code my learning targets. These abbreviations should be accompanied by clear descriptions. Here you can see that I have arranged my gradebook by standard, and that within those standards, I have arranged my learning targets. I have included a specific description for each learning target so that students know exactly what a 3 out of 4 on Standard 1 Learning Target A refers to and what the expectations of that target are. Additionally, they can identify on which projects that learning target will be assessed. When you have a learning target that is assessed multiple times over the course of a term, make sure that you note those assessments in the Score Inspector as a record of student progress. This will also assist you in taking a holistic approach to grading their work. This learning target represents an assessment of students' ability to critique artwork using the elements and principles of design, communicating with the correct vocabulary. As you can see, the target is clearly identified, the student's present score is entered, and this score is based upon the student's record of progress and graded holistically. While standards-based grading can be an incredible approach to assessment and can lead to positive instructional and learning outcomes, it is important to remember that its success hinges on effective communication. Grading policies must be clearly communicated to both students and families, and assessment criteria, including standards and learning targets, should be readily available to students and families and easy to access. This short video has covered quite a bit of ground and hopefully has answered some of your questions. It may have generated a few as well. Please feel free to contact me via email or visit my comprehensive school website for more information and resources.